So our next victim here tonight is Dan Mowery. So Dan is a guy that I met probably 6-8 months ago, and he was at an office where I had a meeting, and we started shooting the breeze. And I don't know how we got on the conversation, but I had realized, somebody told me how his grandfather started Midway Bowling Alley, Cumberland Golf Course, Cumberland Drive-In, a whole host of other things, right? Well, his grandfather came back from World War II, and like many of the other guys that fought in the war, had a sense that they could do anything. You know, there was nothing they couldn't do. And so they say that sometimes that can skip a generation. We get some affluence and things sort of get a little easier and whatever. Well, Dan, his family thinks is sort of the second coming of his grandfather. So he has an interesting story to tell in how it was just expected he go to college, what worked, what didn't, and what really then worked to sort of start him on a career that is pretty awesome at 29 years old. And he has, I think, a lot like me, a real want to share with his generation. It's not mine. So I'm sort of introducing him. He can introduce some others. I want to hear from some of the older guys that have some real perspective, and we'll take it from there. My hope in all of this is that I can sort of breathe a little bit of life into it, and then they're the sails that really, your generation is the sails that really carry it forward. And someday you guys, remember me, send me a Christmas card or something. So without chatting anymore, I'll let Dan sort of introduce himself and why he thinks this is important and so forth.
Sure. So, as Mike said, we come from a business family. My brother's back there right now taking pictures, starting photography.
Love you, Dad.
So, my business background started when I was a kid. Got involved with my grandfather, and he showed me the ropes, and then like any privileged young man, decided to go off to college and drop out 3 times. So it didn't end so well for me. So first time I dropped out is 19 years old, and decided that I knew better. So realized that college lacked pragmatism. That's true, but then without listening, I chose to try to start a business, which rapidly failed. So I returned back to college, wouldn't listen to my teachers, dropped out again, decided to try to open another business, which rapidly failed. And then, the second time, I didn't really bounce back as quickly. I ended up kind of bumbling through life, eventually hitchhiking across the country. That was a real fun adventure. And there was this one night that I couldn't get a ride anywhere else. I was in the middle of Colorado. It was getting cold, so decided to hike up into the mountains, and I was going to sleep there because no one else would give me a ride anywhere. My parents had cut me off, and that was a good move on their part. Totally supportive of that decision. It was the right time. And it started to rain on me, and I just started to laugh. I was like, Dan, you dumbass. Like, why? Have you not listened to this point in life? And, it took me a long time, but I finally realized that having the humility to listen to other people and what they have to say is very, very important. And through that, I tried 7 more startups, 2 of which have made money. So I consider that a great success. And that's led me to where I am today, and Mike and I decided to launch 160M and see if we can't help the younger generation skip the past decade that I literally have lived. It's something that's unnecessary. You can take that decade of hitting your head against the wall and focus on the emotional intelligence, anticipatory behaviors, through core fundamentals that are needed in life to be successful, such as entrepreneurship, state government, wellness, and take these things, bundle them into a course that isn't graded by SATs and prep and government backing and funding to make it all happen. It's done by Americans, and it's done collectively, and we help one another and make that happen. So that's the goal of 160M, and it's the idea we hope can carry on to the future.
Thank you. Dan, do you want to share on what you know about artificial intelligence and why you think it is such a threat to what would be natural career paths most people would historically take?
Absolutely. So everyone uses the word artificial intelligence, and they're using it like this scary thing that's going to erode all the jobs, totally disrupt capitalism, and ruin the world. That's probably not going to happen. You know, it's going to impact jobs, but it's going to shift, just like the Industrial Revolution. Everybody thought that machines were going to replace people and no one would have anything to do. And it's predicted that the artificial intelligence will have a similar revolution. But it will be replacing some jobs, anything that's repetitive. So you take a job such as a repetitive physical task, such as attaching, a rake to a handle. That can be automated because it's repetitive. You take a repetitive cognitive task, such as accounting, that entire industry is going to be marginalized over the next decade because of algorithms that are being formed. So it is going to disrupt anything that can be put into a repetitive task. What can't be marginalized is abstract cognitive functions. So anything that people can do that is abstract and cannot be repeated easily and takes some form of emotional intelligence, where people need to read, how will this impact society? What will the outcome of this be for the next generation? A computer will never be able to do that. So people will always have to fill that role moving forward. And the problem with all this that comes back to, what does college teach? It's a depository learning system. It's teaching you how to do a repetitive task. You go 4 years to learn, and they deposit the information in your brain. How do I do this over and over and over and over again? And by the end, they have you well trained to do what one algorithm can solve indefinitely. So over time, we're predicting that college will become irrelevant. Now, we're not saying go out and try to build a bridge because you really want to or anything like that. You're going to have to get certified. But at the same time, because of artificial intelligence, the traditional model is no longer of value. Along with, you look at the way technology is impacting the world right now, this is an information sharing age. You can go on your phone and download an app where you have full access to free courses from Stanford, MIT, Harvard. These are world-class courses and information for free. And it's reached this point because this is an information sharing age opposed to hoarding. There was a time you paid a lot for information, and now that has shifted to an age of sharing. And with that, college is in trouble because what do? Well, they share information, and they charge quite a lot for that. Well, now that it's being shared for free, where does that lead us? So it's a question we're trying to answer over time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to start this conversation. We were with some people out here last weekend. We had a fly fishing film, and one of Chris, who I'll introduce shortly, brought one of the stars of the film here to meet the people and do a question and answer and so forth. And very interesting how he shared about his life growing up as a racist, very bigoted. He said he grew up in northern Minnesota, a very bigoted family, and got into white supremacy and all this stuff. And he was a victim of his upbringing. He went into the mountains and started fly fishing and learning how to be part of nature and get away from everything that was a negative influencer on him, he had sort of a God moment, I would say, where he realized how wrong he had been and how bad his belief system was. And he decided that he was going to do something about that. So got really into his art, which is woodworking, and Chris can speak to his skill set more. But got to be a master of brook trout fishing, right? So brook trout are very small and they live in little creeks and hard to catch and so forth. But he said that at the same time, he had to put food on the table, and so he got a job on the road crew of the county in northern Michigan, or northern Minnesota. And so rose up through from the asphalt shoveler to the foreman to the supervisor of this road crew. The mayor's office at one point called him in recently and said, "We want to take you from the supervisor of the road crew to a director level. You know, you have an ability to lead people and build consensus and do all these great things, and we really want to give you that position because we think you can do great things in the county." It would have doubled his salary from $50,000 to $100,000 or more. Barely graduated high school, no college, you know, this terrible upbringing. He went home to his wife and he said, "You wouldn't believe this, but this is what these people offered me. You know, I have no interest because it would take me away from what I love to do and what I think I'm good at." And he said, she looked at me and she said, "The reason they did that is because you can build consensus. You had a terrible sort of upbringing and a mindset that you flushed down the toilet. You became somebody who people want to follow." And so when Dan talks about artificial intelligence and how the world is changing and how many careers are going to be marginalized, the one thing that can't be marginalized in the future is people that can lead. It can be learned, it can be shared, and that's what I think is so exciting about this momentum we're getting here, and what we want to do is that we can build a group of people that maybe you light some fires for young people that say, "Well, geez, if he can do it, I can do it." You know, so the last thing I'm going to ask Dan is, he came home for the third time. It's like the Stations of the Cross. Dan falls for the third time, right? So he comes home from Shikellamy State or wherever he was accepted into, and he gets in mom's basement and he's feeling like a loser. He went into, and he found a course online that changed his life. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So a real game, man, you're talking me up here.
I'm sorry. I got to break you down to build you up.
But yeah, so I found this course online. It was through Stanford, and to get accepted, you had to have a bachelor's degree. And I was like, oh, it's about the end of the road for me on this one, but I'm going to try anyways because never finished that one. But I wrote him an article, and I said, you know, this is a program in your graduate studies. I know I need a bachelor's degree, but you know, I've tried 7 companies now, and obviously I feel your entrepreneurial skill sets would help me a lot, seeing that most have failed. And the reason they ended up letting me in is, like I said to them, this isn't about letting me in. It's that I'm starting to impact lives now. You know, I have 25 to 30 employees right now, and with that, my decisions are impacting them. And for that reason, they allowed me to join the program, and it was all online. They have meetups at Stanford you can attend. I've not gone yet, I need to still, but it really did open my eyes. And what it proved to me is online learning is real. You know, people look at it as if it's something that is just like, oh, he's taking classes online or whatever. But it's real, and it is the wave of the future. You know, at this point, moving forward, you see edX, which has an unlimited amount of online courses. to make people into lifelong learners. And what those courses taught me is it doesn't have to be this thing where I'm going to stop everything to get educated and then I'm going to go work. You know, you can continuously become more educated through your entire life, and becoming a lifelong learner is essential if you want to be able to adapt and perform in a modern world. To always be taking another class, to always get excited about learning, and it was a great program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Well, you know, Dan is he is a guy that he's gonna make an impact somewhere. He already is. What I think is really cool is he's willing to take the time to put into 160M, which is not a benevolent mission, but it's a mission that could have a huge impact on so many lives. So it's a good thing.